my son said. Don't expect a dime from Dad's $92 million. At the will reading, he turned pale when he heard my name. She probably doesn't even remember her own name anymore. Maybe we should just put her in a home and forget about her. Those were the cruel words I heard while hiding behind the kitchen door. My husband's funeral was only 3 days ago, but they were already planning my disappearance. The smell of his favorite aftershave still hung in the bedroom, but downstairs, my family was acting like pirates fighting over treasure. They didn't know I was listening. My daughter Sarah was pointing at everything with her greedy fingers. That painting is worth at least $50,000, she whispered to her husband. And look at that diamond necklace on the dresser. Mom won't even notice if it goes missing. I pressed my back against the wall, my heart pounding like a drum. These were the same children I raised with love and kindness. The same kids I made breakfast for every morning before school. Now they were talking about me like I was already dead and buried next to their father. My grandson Tommy walked past me without even a hello. He had a notebook in his hand, writing down prices like he was at a garage sale. Grandma's losing her mind anyway, he said to his sister. She won't remember what she owned by next week. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell them I remembered everything. Every birthday cake I baked, every scraped knee I kissed, every time I stayed up all night when they were sick. But I stayed quiet and kept listening to their terrible plans. Sarah's husband was the worst of all. We need to move fast, he said, looking around like a hungry wolf. Get her to sign papers while she's still sad about Dad's death. She'll do anything we ask. They were planning to trick me into giving away everything my husband worked so hard to build. The house we bought when we were young and broke. The business he started in our garage. All the memories we made together for 52 years. To them, it was just money waiting to be grabbed. I walked slowly to my bedroom, my old knees aching with each step. But I wasn't as helpless as they thought. Hidden inside my jewelry box was something they didn't know about. A special envelope my husband gave me just 1 week before he died. Keep this safe, he had whispered, his weak hand squeezing mine. Don't let them see it until the right time comes. I had promised him I would wait. Now I knew exactly what he meant. The envelope felt warm in my shaking hands. Inside were papers that would change everything. My husband wasn't just a successful businessman. He was also very smart about protecting his family. But not the way they expected. The documents showed that 3 months before his death, he had changed everything. He knew our children had become greedy and selfish. He watched them visit only when they needed money. He saw how they treated me like I was invisible, so he made a plan to teach them a lesson they would never forget. That night, I made my favorite tea and sat by the window where my husband used to read his newspaper. The moon was bright and full, like he was watching over me from heaven. I opened the envelope carefully and read every word twice. My husband had written me a letter in his shaky handwriting. My dear wife, it said. If you're reading this, then I'm gone and they're probably being cruel to you. Don't worry. I made sure you'll have the last laugh. Trust me one more time, my love. Tears rolled down my cheeks, but I was also smiling. The next morning, Sarah came to my room with fake sweetness in her voice. Mom, we found some papers that Daddy wanted you to sign. It's just boring legal stuff, but it will help us take care of everything for you. She put the papers on my nightstand like I was too stupid to understand. You don't need to worry your pretty head about money anymore. We'll handle it all. I nodded and smiled like a helpless old lady. That sounds wonderful, dear. You're so kind to help your poor old mother. But I didn't sign anything. Instead, I called the phone number my husband had written in his letter. A lawyer named Mr. Rodriguez answered on the first ring. Mrs. Thompson, he said warmly. I've been waiting for your call. Your husband told me you might need my help soon. I told him about my children's greedy plans. He listened carefully and then said something that made me feel strong again. Don't worry. We're going to give them a surprise they'll never forget at the will reading tomorrow. The whole family gathered in the lawyer's fancy office the next day. Sarah wore her most expensive dress. Tommy had his hair slicked back like he was going to a job interview. They all looked so confident, like they had already spent their inheritance money. I sat in the corner wearing my old black dress from the funeral. They barely looked at me. Sarah's husband kept checking his phone, probably looking at cars he wanted to buy. "This is going to be easy," Tommy whispered to his cousin. "Grandma probably forgot we're even here." Mr. Rodriguez walked in carrying a thick folder. His face was serious, like a judge about to make an important decision. "Thank you all for coming," he said in his deep voice. "We're here to read the last will and testament of Mr. James Thompson." Everyone leaned forward in their chairs like hungry birds waiting for worms. Sarah was already smiling, probably thinking about all the jewelry she wanted to steal. But Mr. Rodriguez had a different kind of surprise waiting for them. "Before we begin," the lawyer said, "I need to inform you that Mr. Thompson made some special changes to his will just 3 months before his death." Sarah's smile started to fade. Tommy stopped playing with his phone. The room got very quiet, like someone had turned off all the sound. "It seems," Mr. Rodriguez continued, "that Mr. Thompson was very concerned about how his family was treating his beloved wife during his illness." He looked directly at Sarah. He was particularly upset about some conversations he overheard. The lawyer pulled out a small recording device. "Mr. Thompson asked me to play this for everyone before reading the will." He pressed a button, and my husband's weak but clear voice filled the room. "My dear children," the recording said, "if you're hearing this, then I'm gone and you're probably counting my money already." Sarah's face turned white. Tommy's hands started shaking. "I've been watching you," their father's voice continued. "I've seen how you treat your mother, how you talk about her when you think she can't hear you." The recording kept playing, and my husband's voice got stronger. "I heard you call her crazy. I heard you say she's worthless. I heard you planning to put her in a home so you could steal everything we built together." Sarah tried to interrupt, but Mr. Rodriguez held up his hand for silence. "So I've decided," my husband's voice said with a little chuckle, "to give you exactly what you deserve for treating the love of my life like garbage." The room was so quiet I could hear everyone's heart beating. "To my son Tommy," the recording continued, "who said his grandmother doesn't remember anything, I leave you $1 so you can remember this day forever." Tommy's mouth fell open like a fish. "To my daughter Sarah, who called her mother a burden, I leave you exactly what you gave her. Nothing." Sarah jumped up from her chair, her face red with anger. "This can't be legal," she shouted. But Mr. Rodriguez just smiled and kept the recording playing. "To Sarah's husband, who wanted to trick my wife into signing papers," my husband's voice said with satisfaction, "I leave you the wisdom to learn that greed never wins." Sarah's husband looked like he wanted to crawl under the table and disappear. "And to the rest of my family who treated my precious wife like she was invisible," the recording continued, "I hope you learn that love is worth more than money." But apparently, you never learned that lesson. Then came the part that made my heart sing with joy. "To my beloved wife Margaret Thompson," my husband's voice said with all the love he had in his heart, "I leave everything. The house, the business, all the money, and most importantly, the power to decide what happens next." The lawyer handed me a thick folder full of papers. "Mrs. Thompson," he said with a smile, "you are now worth $92 million, and you can do whatever you want with it." Sarah started crying, but not the sad kind of tears. These were angry, selfish tears. "This isn't fair," she screamed like a little child having a tantrum. "We're her children. We deserve that money." But Tommy surprised everyone by standing up and walking over to me. His face was red with shame. "Grandma," he said in a shaky voice, "I'm so sorry. We were terrible to you. Dad was right to do this." He knelt down beside my chair. "Can you ever forgive me?" I looked at my grandson's tearful face and remembered the little boy who used to help me bake cookies in my kitchen. "Tommy," I said softly, "your grandfather didn't do this to be mean. He did it to teach you that family is about love, not money. I patted his hand gently. I forgive you, sweetheart. But you need to show me you've learned your lesson. Sarah was still screaming at the lawyer, demanding he change the will somehow. But there was nothing she could do. The papers were legal and final. Over the next few months, I watched my family very carefully. Sarah never apologized. She hired lawyers to try to steal my inheritance, but they all told her the same thing. The will was perfect and legal. She stopped visiting me altogether, which honestly made me happier. But Tommy was different. He came to see me every week. He helped me with grocery shopping and yard work. He even learned how to make his grandfather's favorite soup recipe. I decided to test Tommy's heart in a special way. One day when he was visiting, I pretended to be very tired. "Tommy," I said weakly, "I think I'm getting too old to handle all this money. Maybe you should take care of it for me." I watched his face carefully. The old Tommy would have grabbed those papers immediately. But the new Tommy just held my hand gently. "Grandma," he said, "you're the smartest person I know. If you need help, I'll help you. But that money is yours." That's when I knew Tommy had truly changed. So I made a decision that surprised everyone, including myself. I called Mr. Rodriguez and had him prepare new papers. I decided to give Tommy a second chance, but not Sarah. Sarah had shown her true colors, and they were ugly and greedy. But Tommy had learned to be kind and caring again. He reminded me of his grandfather when we were young and poor but happy. I kept most of the money for myself, of course. At my age, I deserved to be comfortable and secure. But I set aside $5 million for Tommy's future children, with one important rule. He couldn't touch the money until he proved he was a good father and husband. And I kept $1 million in a special account for a very specific purpose. I wanted to help other elderly people whose children were treating them badly. I started a special foundation called Grandparents with Wisdom. We help older people who are being abused or ignored by their families. Sometimes we provide legal help. Sometimes we just provide friendship and support. It makes my heart happy to know that my husband's money is being used to protect people who can't protect themselves. He would be so proud of what we've accomplished. Sarah tried to contact me several times over the years, but only when she needed money. She never apologized for how she treated me. She never said she was sorry for planning to steal my inheritance. She only called when her husband lost his job or when they couldn't pay their bills. Each time, I politely told her I was busy and hung up the phone. Some people never learn their lessons, no matter how hard you try to teach them. But Tommy became like a son to me all over again. He got married to a wonderful girl who treats me with respect and kindness. When their first baby was born, they asked me to be the godmother. As I held that precious little baby in my arms, I thought about how proud my husband would be. We had broken the cycle of greediness in our family. Tommy's children would grow up learning about love and kindness instead of money and selfishness. The house feels peaceful now. No more angry voices arguing about money. No more greedy hands grabbing at things that don't belong to them. Just me, my memories, and the occasional visit from Tommy's growing family. I sit in my husband's old chair every evening and read his favorite books. Sometimes I can almost hear his voice telling me he's proud of how I handled everything. "You showed them," he seems to whisper. "You showed them what real strength looks like." I learned something important through this whole experience. Being old doesn't mean being helpless. Being quiet doesn't mean being weak. Sometimes the wisest thing to do is watch and wait for the right moment to act. My family thought I was just a confused old lady who didn't understand what was happening around her. But I was smarter than they gave me credit for. I was my husband's partner for 52 years. He didn't build that business alone. People always assume that old people don't matter anymore. They think we're forgetful and useless. But we've lived long lives full of experiences and wisdom. We've seen good times and bad times. We know the difference between people who truly love us and people who just want our money. That knowledge is more valuable than any inheritance. It's something you can't buy in any store or learn in any school. Now I spend my time helping other grandparents who are facing similar problems. Last month, I helped an elderly man whose son was trying to sell his house without permission. The month before, I assisted a grandmother whose daughter was stealing her Social Security checks. It feels good to use my money and experience to fight back against people who prey on older citizens. My husband always said that money should be used to help others, not just make yourself richer. The funniest part of this whole story is that Sarah still doesn't understand what happened. She tells people that I stole her inheritance, as if the money belonged to her in the first place. She doesn't realize that her father's money was never hers to begin with. He worked hard for 50 years to build that fortune, and he had every right to give it to whoever he wanted. The fact that he chose me over his greedy children says everything about their character. Sometimes I imagine what would have happened if I had been weak and let them have their way. They would have put me in some terrible nursing home and forgotten about me completely. They would have sold our house and divided up the money between themselves. And in a few years, they would have spent every penny on cars and vacations and other useless things. My husband's life work would have been wasted on people who didn't deserve it or appreciate it. Instead, I'm living comfortably in the house my husband and I bought when we were newlyweds. I've redecorated it exactly the way I always wanted but never could when the greedy family was always visiting and criticizing everything. The walls are painted soft yellow, my favorite color. The furniture is comfortable instead of fancy. And most importantly, the house is filled with love instead of arguments about money. Tommy brings his children to visit me every Sunday. We bake cookies together just like he used to do when he was little. His daughter reminds me so much of him at that age. Curious about everything and full of questions. She doesn't know about the money or the family drama. To her, I'm just grandma who makes the best chocolate chip cookies in the world and tells the most interesting stories. That's exactly how it should be. The lawyer, Mr. Rodriguez, has become a good friend over the years. He helps me manage my investments and make sure the foundation is running smoothly. Sometimes he tells me about other families going through similar situations. Sadly more common than people realize. Children who see their parents as walking bank accounts instead of human beings who deserve love and respect. It breaks my heart every time. But there are also happy stories. Families who learn to appreciate their elderly members and treat them with dignity. Children who realize their parents' wisdom is more valuable than their bank accounts. These stories give me hope that not everyone in the younger generation has forgotten the importance of family values. It reminds me that Tommy's change of heart wasn't impossible, just rare. I've started writing a book about my experience, not for money or fame, but to help other elderly people who might be facing similar challenges. I want them to know they're not alone and they don't have to be victims. There are laws to protect us, and there are people who care about our well-being. Sometimes we just need to be brave enough to fight back against those who try to take advantage of us. The book is called The Last Laugh, A Grandmother's Guide to Dealing with Greedy Children. I know it sounds a bit harsh, but sometimes the truth hurts. I share stories from other families I've helped through the foundation, along with practical advice about protecting your assets and recognizing the warning signs of elder abuse. It's amazing how many people don't realize what's happening to them until it's almost too late. My favorite chapter is called The Power of Patience. It's about learning to watch and wait instead of reacting immediately to every cruel word or selfish action. Sometimes the best revenge is simply outliving your enemies and proving them wrong. In my case, outliving them wasn't necessary. Just outsmarting them was enough. They thought I was a helpless old lady, but I was actually a warrior in disguise. Every morning when I wake up in my comfortable bed in my house, I say a little prayer of thanks to my husband. Not just for the money he left me, but for trusting me to handle it wisely. He knew I would use his fortune to help others instead of wasting it on selfish desires. He knew I would teach our family important lessons about love and respect. And he knew I was strong enough to stand up to their bullying and manipulation. The greatest gift he gave me wasn't the $92 million. It was the chance to show everyone who I really was underneath the quiet exterior. For years, I had been the supportive wife who stayed in the background while he built his business empire. People saw me as just a housewife who cooked meals and cleaned the house. They didn't know I had a college degree in business or that I had helped him make many important decisions over the years. When we were first married and struggling financially, I worked 2 jobs to help pay for his business school tuition. When he was starting his company, I managed the books and handled customer service from our kitchen table. When he was stressed about big decisions, I was the one who listened to his worries and helped him think through the problems. But somehow, over the years, everyone forgot about my contributions. That's another reason why my husband's will was so perfect. It reminded everyone that I wasn't just his wife. I was his partner. The money represented decades of shared work and sacrifice. Every dollar he earned was partially mine because I had helped him earn it through my support and encouragement. The greedy children saw only the final result, not all the years of hard work that came before it. Now that I'm in control of the family fortune, I've made some changes that my husband would definitely approve of. I've donated money to the local library where we used to take the children when they were small. I've funded a scholarship program for business students who come from poor families like we did. And I've established a fund to help elderly people pay for home care so they don't have to go to nursing homes unless they want to. These donations make me feel connected to my husband's memory in a way that just sitting around feeling sorry for myself never could. He always believed in giving back to the community that supported us during our early struggles. Now I can continue that tradition with even more resources than we ever had before. It's like we're still working together, even though he's watching from heaven. Sarah has tried several times to reconcile with me, but only when she heard about my charitable donations. She suddenly became very interested in helping me decide where to give the money. She suggested several organizations that she was involved with. Organizations that would probably give her kickbacks for bringing in such a large donor. I politely declined her offers and continued making my own decisions about charitable giving. The truth is, I don't miss Sarah's company at all. Our relationship had become toxic long before her father died. She only visited when she needed money or wanted to complain about her life. She never asked about my health or my feelings. She never offered to help with household chores or errands. She treated me like a convenient bank that was always open for business. Now that the bank is closed to her, she has no reason to pretend to care about me. But Tommy's transformation has been the most wonderful surprise of this whole experience. He went from being a selfish young man to a caring son and father. He learned that family is about more than shared DNA. It's about mutual respect and genuine affection. His children are being raised with values that Sarah's children will never learn because their mother is still focused on money instead of love. Last Christmas, Tommy's family spent the entire day with me. We cooked dinner together, played games, and shared stories about their grandfather. It was the first Christmas in years that felt like a real family celebration instead of an awkward obligation. The children made me handmade gifts instead of expecting expensive presents from me. Tommy gave me a photo album filled with pictures of our family during the happy times before greed divided us. As I get older, I think more about what kind of legacy I want to leave behind. My husband left behind a successful business and a lot of money, but more importantly, he left behind a lesson about the importance of treating people with kindness and respect. Now it's my turn to create a legacy that honors his memory and helps other people in similar situations. The foundation has grown beyond my wildest dreams. We now have offices in 3 states and have helped hundreds of elderly people protect themselves from financial abuse. We've helped families reconcile after money disputes tore them apart. We've provided legal assistance to grandparents who were being denied access to their grandchildren. Every success story makes me feel like my husband is smiling down at me with pride. One of our most successful programs is called Wisdom Circles. We bring together elderly people who have been through similar experiences with family betrayal and financial abuse. They share their stories and support each other through the healing process. Many of them have become close friends and spend holidays together when their own families have abandoned them. It's beautiful to see people find new families when their biological ones have failed them. I've also started mentoring younger women who are caring for elderly parents or grandparents. I teach them warning signs to watch for and help them develop strategies for protecting their loved ones from greedy relatives. It's heartbreaking how many people don't realize what's happening until it's too late. But education and awareness can prevent a lot of unnecessary suffering. My health is still good for someone my age, but I know I won't live forever. That's why I've spent so much time and energy creating systems that will continue helping people long after I'm gone. The foundation has a board of directors who share my values and will continue the work we've started. Tommy has expressed interest in becoming more involved as he gets older, which gives me confidence that the family tradition of helping others will continue. I've also updated my own will to make sure there are no surprises or confusion when my time comes. Tommy will inherit most of what's left, but only if he continues to demonstrate the values his grandfather and I tried to teach him. If he ever goes back to his old greedy ways, the money will go entirely to the foundation. I've learned that you can never be too careful when it comes to protecting your legacy from people who might misuse it. Sometimes people ask me if I regret being so harsh with Sarah and the other family members. They think I should forgive and forget and give them another chance. But I've learned that some people never change, no matter how many opportunities you give them. Sarah has had years to apologize and show genuine remorse for how she treated me. Instead, she continues to tell people that I'm a cruel old woman who stole her inheritance. The truth is, I feel sorry for Sarah and people like her. They're so focused on money and material possessions that they've forgotten how to appreciate the simple joys of life. They don't understand that the love of family is worth more than any amount of money. They spend their lives chasing after wealth and status while missing out on the relationships that could bring them true happiness. But I don't waste much time feeling sorry for them. I'm too busy enjoying my own life and helping other people improve theirs. Every day brings new adventures and opportunities to make a positive difference in the world. Whether I'm working with a foundation, spending time with Tommy's family, or simply enjoying a quiet afternoon in my garden, I feel grateful for the chance to live life on my own terms. My husband used to say that the best revenge is living well. He was absolutely right. Instead of spending my golden years bitter and angry about how my family treated me, I've chosen to focus on creating something positive and meaningful. The money that was supposed to make them happy has become a tool for helping others find happiness and security in their own lives. As I finish writing this story, I want to share some advice for anyone who might be facing a similar situation. First, don't let people convince you that you're too old or too confused to make important decisions. Age brings wisdom, not weakness. Second, document everything and seek professional help if you suspect someone is trying to take advantage of you. And finally, remember that you have the right to surround yourself with people who treat you with love and respect. Life is too short to waste on relationships that bring you pain instead of joy. Whether it's your children, your siblings, or anyone else in your family, you don't owe them anything if they treat you badly. Blood relationship doesn't give anyone the right to abuse or neglect you. Sometimes the family you choose is more valuable than the family you're born into. My story isn't just about money or inheritance or family drama. It's about finding the strength to stand up for yourself when everyone expects you to be weak. It's about proving that elderly people deserve respect and dignity. And it's about using whatever resources you have to make the world a little bit better for others who are facing similar challenges. To anyone listening who feels invisible or undervalued because of their age, remember this: your story isn't over yet. You still have the power to make choices that honor your values and protect your well-being. You still have wisdom to share and love to give to people who appreciate it. And you still have the right to expect kindness and respect from the people in your life. Don't let anyone convince you that you're just a burden waiting to die. You're a human being with decades of experience and knowledge. You've survived challenges that younger people can't even imagine. You have stories to tell and lessons to teach. Most importantly, you have the right to live your remaining years with dignity and surrounded by people who value your presence in their lives. My husband may be gone, but his love continues to protect me through the choices he made before his death. And now my story will hopefully protect and inspire others who need to know they're not alone in their struggles. If this story moved you, Please remember that every elderly person deserves to be treated with kindness and respect. Because someday, if you're lucky, you'll be old too. And you'll want people to treat you the way you treated others when they were vulnerable and needed your compassion. Subscribe to Granny Twisted Tales for more stories of strength, justice, and the power of standing up for yourself when everyone expects you to stay silent. Because every voice matters, especially the ones that have been ignored for too long.